In a secluded town, cradled by thick woods and shrouded in perpetual mist, lived a girl named Mia. Her childhood was typically marked by innocent joys, laughter echoing through sunlit afternoons. However, everything changed on one fateful birthday when her grandmother, a woman with a penchant for the unusual, presented her with a peculiar porcelain doll. Unlike the cheerful toys Mia had known, this doll bore delicate, almost lifelike features: painted rosy cheeks, perfectly sculpted lips, and glassy green eyes that seemed to shimmer with an unsettling light. Entranced, Mia named her doll Beatrice. From the moment Mia cradled Beatrice in her arms, she felt an inexplicable connection, a bond that eclipsed anything she had ever experienced. Beatrice was not just a doll, she became Mia's confidante, her companion in games and dreams. However, the townspeople, wary of the doll's strange aura, whispered tales of its dark past. They spoke of a girl named Sarah who had vanished decades earlier after receiving a similar doll on her birthday. Mia dismissed these stories as mere folklore, local legends meant to scare children, but the unease lingered at the back of her mind. As weeks passed, Mia's attachment to Beatrice deepened. They shared secrets and dreams, spending countless afternoons in imaginative play. Yet strange occurrences began to unfold. Beatrice's smile grew wider, a disconcerting transformation that filled Mia with dread. At night, faint whispers threaded through her room, a chilling serenade that made her skin crawl. Shadows flickered just beyond her window, twisting and shifting as if alive, keeping her on edge. One evening, while sitting on her bed, Mia brushed Beatrice's hair, each stroke oddly therapeutic. But then, an icy draft swept through her room, causing the hairs on her neck to stand on end. Glancing at Beatrice, she noticed the doll's eyes twinkling with a sinister intelligence. Heart racing, Mia tried to shake off the feeling, convincing herself it was all in her head. She tucked Beatrice into bed beside her, attempting to dismiss the unease. But the nightmares began soon after. Each night, Mia found herself plunged into a realm of darkness where shadowy figures loomed, whispering a single name, Sarah, in her dreams. She saw a girl with sunken eyes and tangled hair, pleading for help. Just as Mia reached out to comfort her, the girl vanished, leaving behind an unsettling silence. Each morning, Mia awoke breathless, her heart racing as she clutched Beatrice tightly, searching for solace. At school, Mia's friends teased her about Beatrice. "That doll looks like it's alive," they would giggle, their laughter echoing in her ears, amplifying the doll's sinister presence. Yet, an inexplicable urge to protect Beatrice surged within her, as if the doll had become an extension of her very soul. Whenever she defended Beatrice, a chilling voice whispered in her mind, "They don't understand, Mia. They cannot see." Haunted by her dreams and the whispers, Mia resolved to uncover the truth behind Beatrice and the girl named Sarah. She began to scour the town's archives, poring over old newspapers and dusty books in the library. Each article she unearthed spoke of a young girl who vanished without a trace after receiving a doll on her birthday. The accounts grew darker, hinting at a bond that had turned sinister, ensnaring not just Sarah but anyone who dared to possess the doll. One stormy night, as rain pounded against the library windows, Mia stumbled upon a faded photograph of Sarah. The resemblance was uncanny. The girl had the same curly hair and bright eyes as Mia. The accompanying article revealed that Sarah had become obsessed with her doll, spending hours in conversation with it. The last entry in her diary chilled Mia to the bone. "Beatrice whispers secrets to me. I fear I'm losing myself." A sense of urgency flooded Mia, compelling her to act. "I need to break this bond," she thought, heart pounding. But as she turned to leave the library, the lights flickered ominously, plunging her into darkness. Panic surged as she felt a presence behind her. She spun around, heart racing, but found only shadows lurking in the corners, twisting and mocking her fear. That night, Mia was determined to confront Beatrice. As she sat in her dimly lit room, clutching the doll tightly, she spoke aloud. "What happened to Sarah? Why are you tied to me?" Silence enveloped her, thick and suffocating. Then, an icy breeze swept through the room, extinguishing her candle. The darkness pressed against her like a shroud, and she felt a creeping dread take hold. Beatrice's smile, once comforting, now seemed to leer at her. "You belong to me," Mia the doll whispered, its voice dripping with malice. Mia's heart raced. She realized that Beatrice was no longer just a doll, she was a malevolent force, feeding off her fears. Desperate to escape the doll's grip, Mia recalled the diary she had read. It spoke of a ritual, one that could sever the connection between the doll and its owner. She had to confront Beatrice, but the thought filled her with terror. The next evening, Mia returned to the abandoned house where Sarah had lived, drawn by a magnetic pull she couldn't explain. The townsfolk warned her to stay away, claiming it was cursed, but Mia felt she had no choice. The moon hung high, illuminating her path through the woods, casting long, eerie shadows that danced around her. The house loomed before her, its windows like hollow eyes staring into the darkness. Hesitating for a moment, Mia pressed on, stepping inside the decaying structure. The air was thick with dust and the scent of mildew, each creak of the floorboards echoing like a warning. As she climbed the rickety staircase, a chilling wind howled through the halls, rattling the old windows. In the attic, she found a trunk hidden beneath a pile of rubble. Heart pounding, she pried it open and gasped at the sight inside dozens of dolls, each one bearing a striking resemblance to Beatrice. But among them lay something else, Sarah's diary, tattered and worn. Mia opened the diary, her hands trembling. The pages were filled with Sarah's handwriting, detailing her descent into madness, her obsession with the doll, and the chilling realization that Beatrice was not just a toy but a vessel for something far more sinister. The last entry made Mia's blood run cold. Beatrice has taken everything from me. She whispers in my ear, and I cannot resist. Suddenly, Mia felt a presence behind her, an icy chill creeping up her spine. She turned to see a shadowy figure in the corner, Sarah, her eyes hollow and pleading. "You must free me," the girl whispered, her voice echoing in the darkness. "Beatrice cannot be allowed to claim you." At that moment, the attic door slammed shut, trapping Mia inside. Panic surged through her as Beatrice's laughter echoed around her, reverberating off the walls. "You can't escape, Mia. You're mine now." With a surge of determination, Mia grasped the diary and shouted, "I reject you." She tore out the pages, one by one, feeling the energy in the room shift with each rip. The walls began to tremble, shadows swirling violently as Beatrice's laughter turned to furious shrieks. "Stop. You'll regret this," the doll screeched, but Mia continued, driven by the need to sever the bond. The room exploded in chaos. The dolls in the trunk rattled and shook as if alive, and the air grew thick with malevolence. As the final page was torn, a blinding light enveloped the room. Sarah's figure brightened, her expression transforming from despair to hope. "You have the power, Mia. Set us free." With a final, desperate cry, Mia hurled the diary into the trunk and slammed the lid shut. The house shook, and for a moment everything went still. Then, an ear-splitting scream erupted from Beatrice, echoing through the attic like a banshee's wail. Shadows twisted and writhed, trying to break free, but as the light consumed them, they began to dissolve. Mia stumbled back, breathless, the weight of the darkness lifting as she rushed out of the house. The night air felt alive, electric, and she knew she had triumphed. But as she looked back, a lingering chill seeped into her bones. Days passed, and the town seemed lighter, but the memory of Beatrice haunted Mia. She returned home, trying to forget, but every time she closed her eyes, she could still feel the doll's eyes watching her, still feel the grip of that sinister smile. She began to notice small things shifting in her life. Objects moved, shadows creeping around her when she wasn't looking, and the whispers returned, soft and insidious. Every corner of her house felt alive with a presence, a lurking dread that made her heart race. One night, after a particularly unsettling dream where Sarah screamed for help, Mia woke to find a figure standing at the foot of her bed. It was Beatrice, eyes glinting in the darkness, her smile wide and twisted. "You thought you could escape," the doll whispered, her voice smooth yet venomous. "You will always belong to me." Mia's heart sank as the realization washed over her. The bond was not easily broken. Beatrice was still with her, waiting, watching, and ready to reclaim her. As the darkness closed in, Mia understood that the battle had only just begun. Terrified, she fled from her room, rushing down the hallway, desperate to escape the suffocating presence of the doll. but the air was thick with shadows that seemed to reach out, clawing at her, dragging her back toward the nightmare. Mia stumbled into the living room, heart pounding, and caught her breath. Suddenly the lights flickered, plunging her into darkness. She felt a cold hand grip her wrist, yanking her back. "You cannot run from me," Beatrice hissed, her voice a chilling echo in the stillness. The doll's porcelain features twisted grotesquely, reflecting Mia's deepest fears. In a moment of panic, Mia remembered the folklore her grandmother had shared about dolls and their ties to the spirit world. Perhaps there was a way to reclaim her life, to sever the bond once and for all. She needed to find Sarah, to understand the truth that had been hidden away. Driven by desperation, Mia raced back to the abandoned house. The wind howled through the trees, and the moon cast an eerie glow over the decaying structure. As she entered the attic once more, she felt the air thicken with tension. The trunk sat ominously in the corner, and as she approached, she could hear the faint whispers of the dolls. "Help us," they seemed to murmur, their voices a chorus of despair. Heart racing, Mia pried open the trunk, expecting the worst. Inside, the dolls were still, their eyes glimmering with a haunted light. But amid them lay a mirror, covered in dust. As she wiped it clean, Mia gasped at her own reflection, twisted with fear and sorrow. "I'm losing myself," she whispered, realizing that the bond with Beatrice was deeper than she'd thought it had intertwined with her very essence. With trembling hands, she placed the mirror beside the diary. "I need to see you," she called out, knowing that Sarah had been trapped just as she had. "Show me." The attic darkened, shadows coiling like snakes around her. The mirror began to shimmer, and within it, Mia saw Sarah's face pale and pleading, filled with sorrow and longing. "You must break the curse, Mia. It binds us both." Mia felt a surge of determination. How she demanded, her voice echoing against the walls. "You must face Beatrice." Sarah's voice trembled. "You must confront her true nature. Only then can we be free." As the shadows thickened, Mia steeled herself, knowing the confrontation was inevitable. The room trembled, and Beatrice's laughter filled the air, dark and mocking. "You think you can defeat me? I have claimed many before you, and you will be no different." "Stop," Mia shouted, her voice breaking through the cacophony. "I will not be your puppet. I will not be like Sarah." Suddenly, the dolls in the trunk began to rattle, their voices merging into a chaotic symphony of despair. "Help us," they cried, a haunting chorus that filled the room. "We were lost like you." Driven by the power of their cries, Mia focused her energy, reaching deep within herself. "I am not afraid," she shouted. "I am not yours." Beatrice's laughter faltered, replaced by a low growl. "You cannot deny your fear, Mia. It is my lifeblood." But as Mia locked eyes with Sarah's reflection, she felt warmth spreading through her, a flicker of hope igniting within. "Together we can break this," she whispered, reaching out toward Sarah. "Together," Sarah echoed, her spirit glowing brighter. In a moment of clarity, Mia seized the mirror and held it aloft. "I see you, Beatrice," she yelled, her voice steady. "You are not a doll. You are the fear that has held me captive." The room erupted in chaos. Beatrice's form twisted, shadows writhing as if in pain. "No, you cannot do this." The doll screeched, a cacophony of rage and desperation. But Mia stood firm, channeling her fear into defiance. "I reject you," she shouted, the power of her voice crashing against the walls. "Do you have no hold over me?" "Come." With a blinding flash, the mirror exploded with light, engulfing the room. The dolls shrieked, their voices intertwining with Beatrice's, forming a tempest of sound and fury. Shadows began to break apart, dissolving into nothingness. As the light consumed the attic, Mia felt a warmth envelop her, a soothing embrace that washed away the fear. In that moment, she understood fear had always been her enemy, but love and courage would set her free. "Together," she cried, her voice mingling with Sarah's, their spirits intertwined in a final act of defiance. "We are not alone!" "In." With a final surge, the light erupted, consuming everything, leaving behind a profound silence. Mia opened her eyes, finding herself standing alone in the attic, the trunk empty, the dolls gone. The air felt lighter, the shadows lifting as if released from a long-held burden. But as she turned to leave, a chilling whisper curled around her, freezing her in place. "You may have won this time, Mia, but I will return. Our bond is eternal." The realization sent a shiver down her spine. Although she felt lighter, the echoes of Beatrice lingered in the corners of her mind. The battle may have been won, but the war was far from over. Days turned into weeks, and life in the town returned to normal, but Mia's peace was shattered by the feeling of being watched. She felt Beatrice's presence lurking just beyond her reach, waiting for the right moment to reclaim her. Every night, she lay in bed, staring at the shadows that crept along her walls, knowing they held secrets, whispers of the doll she could never truly escape. One particularly haunting night, Mia awoke to the sound of soft laughter echoing in her room. Heart pounding, she turned on her bedside lamp, illuminating the space with a warm glow. But her heart sank when she saw Beatrice perched at the foot of her bed, her smile grotesquely wide, her glassy eyes gleaming with malevolence. "You thought you could escape?" the doll whispered, her voice smooth yet laced with venom. "You will always belong to me, Mia. Your fears will bring me back. They will always bring me back." Mia's blood ran cold. The bond was not easily broken. Beatrice was still there, waiting, watching, and ready to reclaim her. As the darkness closed in, Mia understood that the battle had only just begun. Terrified yet determined, Mia resolved to confront the doll once and for all. She began researching ancient rituals, searching for ways to sever the bond between them. She scoured old texts, desperate for answers, convinced that knowledge was her only weapon against the malevolence of Beatrice. As she immersed herself in her studies, the whispers grew louder, more insistent. "You cannot escape." They hissed in the corners of her mind. "You belong to us." Days turned into weeks, and Mia felt her sanity slipping. Each night, she would wake to Beatrice's laughter echoing in her ears, a chilling reminder of the doll's grip on her soul. The walls of her room seemed to close in, shadows lurking just beyond the edge of her vision, taunting her with their presence. Finally, she discovered an ancient incantation that promised to sever the ties between a doll and its owner, a ritual that required not just words but a sacrifice of the heart. The thought of what she would have to do terrified her, but she knew she had no choice. If she was to be free, she had to confront Beatrice. On a night heavy with storm clouds, Mia prepared for the ritual. She gathered the necessary items, candles, herbs, and the mirror that had revealed Sarah to her. As she set everything up in the attic, she could feel Beatrice's presence growing stronger, a cold dread creeping into her bones. "Are you ready to join me, Mia?" Beatrice's voice echoed through the darkness, a sinister purr that made her skin crawl. "You cannot fight what you are destined to become." Ignoring the doll's taunts, Mia lit the candles, their flames flickering against the shadows. "I am not afraid of you," she said, her voice steadier than she felt. "I will reclaim my life." As she began the incantation, the air grew thick with tension. Shadows danced around her, swirling like a tempest, and the laughter of Beatrice echoed, growing more maniacal. "You think you can defeat me? I am part of you, and you are part of me." But as the words spilled from her lips, Mia felt a surge of power within her. With each line of the incantation, the shadows recoiled, and Beatrice's laughter faltered. "No, you cannot do this," the doll screamed, her porcelain face cracking, revealing a glimpse of the darkness within. "I reject you," Mia shouted, pouring every ounce of her will into the words. The shadows shrieked, twisting in agony as the air crackled with energy. Suddenly, the mirror began to glow, reflecting a bright light that filled the attic. Mia felt a warmth enveloping her, pushing back the darkness, and she could see Sarah's ghostly form emerging from the light. "You are not alone, Mia," Sarah cried, her voice resonating with hope. With renewed determination, Mia held the mirror aloft. "We are united," she shouted, her voice breaking through the cacophony of Beatrice's fury. "You will not control us." In a blinding flash, the light engulfed the room, and Mia felt the walls shake. Beatrice's screams echoed in her ears, a sound of pure rage and despair. "You are mine," the doll shrieked, but Mia knew better. The bond was severing, she could feel it. As the light consumed the attic, shadows began to dissolve, the air growing lighter, and the oppressive weight of fear lifted. Mia held her breath, heart racing as she saw Beatrice's form twist and writhe in the light. "No. You cannot take me," the doll wailed, her features contorting with rage. But Mia stood firm, the power of the mirror radiating through her. "I am not afraid of you," she shouted, feeling the warmth of Sarah's spirit beside her, lending her strength. "You are nothing without fear." With one final burst of energy, Mia shouted the final words of the incantation, and the light exploded, enveloping everything in its brilliance. For a moment, time stood still, and then the light imploded, leaving behind a profound silence. As the dust settled in the attic, Mia opened her eyes to the soft morning light streaming through the cracked window. Relief washed over her. Beatrice was gone. But as she descended the stairs, a cold dread seeped into her bones, a whisper of unease lingering in the corners of her mind. Days turned into weeks, and while the town returned to normal, Mia couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Shadows danced just beyond her peripheral vision, lurking at the edges of her reality. At night, the echoes of Beatrice's laughter would haunt her dreams, filling her with a sense of dread that clung to her like a shroud. One evening, as she lay in bed, a familiar chill swept through her room. The whispers began again, soft, taunting, creeping into her thoughts. "You thought you were free, Mia," they cooed, a sinister lullaby that made her skin crawl. "You cannot escape what you are." Heart racing, she sat up, glancing around the dimly lit room. Everything seemed still, but the air felt charged with a malevolent energy. The remnants of her battle with Beatrice hung heavily in the atmosphere, a thick fog of unresolved terror. And then she saw it, a small figure at the foot of her bed. It was Beatrice, her porcelain face cracked and smeared with darkness, the once charming smile now twisted into a sinister grin. "You really thought I would let you go?" The doll crooned, her voice a silken thread woven with venom. "I will always be a part of you." Mia's heart sank, panic rising like bile in her throat. "No," she cried, backing away, but the doll simply tilted her head, eyes gleaming with a malicious light. "You may have thought you defeated me, but I was never just a doll, Mia. I am your fear, your doubts, your darkness." The room began to swirl, shadows coiling around her like serpents, constricting her, drawing her back into the depths of despair. "You cannot escape, Mia," Beatrice taunted, laughter echoing in the confined space. "You will never be free of me. I will always find you." With each word, the shadows thickened, clawing at Mia's resolve. She felt her heart race, fear washing over her, a tide pulling her into the abyss. "You're lying!" she screamed, desperation flooding her voice. "I beat you." But Beatrice only smiled wider, the sinister grin splitting her porcelain face. "Did you? You cast me out, but you invited the darkness in. I thrive on your fear, Mia. I am your darkest thoughts, the shadows lurking behind your eyes." As the room closed in, Mia realized the truth. Beatrice was not just a doll. She was a manifestation of everything Mia had feared, a dark reflection of her own insecurities. The bond they shared could not be severed. It was a connection forged in terror, one that would never truly fade. "Come to me, Mia," Beatrice cooed, reaching out with an unnaturally long hand. "Let's play forever." In a moment of clarity, Mia understood that her only escape would be to confront the darkness within herself. But as she stepped forward, the shadows surged, swallowing her in an icy embrace. The laughter echoed around her, a cacophony of horror that promised she would never escape. In the final moment, Mia felt her will shatter like glass. The shadows consumed her, dragging her into a void where Beatrice's laughter melded with her own screams. The darkness wrapped around her, suffocating, relentless. As the echoes of despair faded into silence, the room grew still once more. The sun shone brightly outside, casting soft rays through the attic window, but inside the air was thick with an unsettling stillness, and Beatrice remained, perched at the foot of the bed, waiting for her next victim. And in that empty room, a chilling realization settled like dust. Mia had become part of the darkness, lost forever to the very fears she had tried to escape. Beatrice smiled, and the world continued oblivious to the horrors that lurked just beneath the surface, waiting for the next child to cradle her in their arms.